Hi, and welcome to this half-hour special dedicated to some of the stories I've had the pleasure of covering for my weekly Northwest Grown series. I'm Elizabeth Dinh. First, a little bit about where we are. This is Memoir Cafe in Northeast Portland's Alberta neighborhood. It just got some huge recognition because Eater named it as one of the 14 sensational newcomers in the entire country. It's so impressive. And I'm going to share more about this restaurant. But first, a popular pop-up restaurant, Javelina, is making waves, and the owner has a goal of eventually having her own brick and mortar. That's head chef Alexa Numkina Anderson, who tells me a big source of inspiration for her cooking comes from her heritage. She's enrolled Hopi, also part Yakima, Cree, and Skokomish, and she is proud of her Mexican roots from her dad.
So I feel like every single time that I'm making a dish or sharing this food, it's like my own act of rebellion of I'm here, I exist against the better nature of whatever people tried to do.
Bold food from the kitchen of a chef who is proud to share how her identity is reflected in her cooking. Head chef and owner of Javelina, Alexa Numkina Anderson. For some diners who stop into her pop-up restaurant, it's their first time tasting and learning about the Native American dish, fry bread.
That's pretty traditional to like something that you'd find at powwows or for like fundraisers on the reservation. It has a pretty dark history to it. It comes based off of when people were put onto reservations and given government rations of food instead of being able to get their own food themselves from the land. And so that's where a lot of the health disparities have come into play, is because they were given a lot of low nutrition food items instead to survive off of.
Alexa is reshaping how fry bread is perceived.
There's just this thing where people who go through hardships, they take something and they turn it into something good that gets them by. Fry bread has been one of those things, and so now it's like a comforting thing.
The Javelina menu offers a plain fry bread or a fry bread taco that has bean and bison chili, tomato, sour cream, lettuce, and shredded cheese.
Do you have an early memory of fry bread and how comforting it is for you too?
Yeah, it all reminds me of my grandma. There was this one time we had my grandpa Paul visiting. In our culture, my grandma's brothers and sisters are also my grandmas and grandpas. So he was visiting and she was teaching him how to make fry bread, and he was a photographer. And so he had me like taking video of it while she was teaching him. And it was just a really sweet moment, like getting to watch her teach her older brother how to make fry bread.
A dish made with simple ingredients is complex in its significance for Alexa and for many people who can relate to the meaning in it. Her menu, she hopes, will nourish in more ways than one.
I mean, for one thing, I want people to feel full and happy and like the food is super tasty. A lot of the other part of it is I want Native folks to feel seen and like they have a place at the table. It's just so special, and for me, food is like, it's love, it's power, it's knowledge, it's community. So I just want people to show up, ask questions, try the food, come see what we're doing.
Alexa plans to have a brick and mortar within 2 years somewhere on Portland's east side. She already knows that it would also be a place for other Native events to happen. Plus, it would serve as a teaching kitchen. As for her menu, Javelina also offers some sweet items, including powdered sugar or cinnamon sugar fry bread. Storytelling while paying tribute to culture and identity is also important to Portland-based Republica and Company. The hospitality group actually has 3 restaurants, a bar, 3 coffee shops, and a roasting company. Elevated dishes that are also Mexico forward. That's what executive chef Jose Camarena, who also goes by Lalo, serves at Republica in Portland's Pearl District.
We have guests here who have dined with us and don't really understand Mexican and fine dining being in the same sentence. And so a lot of what we're trying to do is show people that there's a whole spectrum of what Mexican, being Hispanic, being Latino actually means.
This restaurant is one of many businesses within the Republica and Company hospitality group. The name, as co-owner Angel Medina explains, is inspired by a warm greeting.
Republica is, it comes from, inspired by when 2 people come across each other in Mexico. Usually they don't ask what part of the country you're from, they ask what part of the Republic are you from. So because of that, it became so easy for us to just adapt that.
It was also an easy decision, he says, to build the Republica concept in Portland.
Portland because it's where I live, but it's also because it's a food town. And the community, I mean, it's really that simple.
That's as Chef Lalo and his team are raising the bar at Republica, sharing culture and cuisine through meals that also tell stories. Meals that have the potential to change how diners perceive Mexican food.
I feel like Mexican cuisine in a lot of ways is kind of a melting pot. I mean, you have aspects that have been influenced from Japanese cuisine, French cuisine, Italian cuisine, and all of that kind of comes to volition here at the restaurant, just demonstrating how much of a spectrum it really is.
Republica and Company is expanding in another way through a new production company called Todos Media. Angel tells me it's meant to be a platform that celebrates and elevates the stories of women, BIPOC, and LGBTQ plus people right here in our area. By the way, you can find their videos on YouTube. You know, I often hear people in the local food and drink industry tell me how they love that the Portland area is a place where they feel like they can truly be themselves and thrive. In fact, as we head next to the Paper Bridge, the owners moved here knowing they wanted to open their restaurant concept right here as well. It focuses on North Vietnamese cuisine, and you'll feel like you're in the city of Hanoi within the walls of this business in Portland's Central East Side.
The Paper Bridge, or in Vietnamese, Go Yai, is a district in the Vietnam capital of Hanoi. Although in Portland's Central East Side,
yeah, they said they're ready. Table 4.
You'll get a taste of it at the restaurant with the same name. That's what Gwen Nguyen and her husband, Carlo Reynardi, intended when they opened this in November of 2023.
And how about that? There's the feeling that is a little bit different from that side to this side too. That was intentional?
Yeah. Well, we want to kind of show like kind of the duality of Vietnam, where there is this sort of like cute little like really beautiful like cafes, but you can also go to the side of the street.
Yeah.
And you know, so we wanted to have like an alley, you know, just kind of show off that.
Gwen is originally from Hanoi. Carlo, a Wisconsin native, was there as a volunteer and eventual chef when the two met, fell in love, and got married.
We lived there for about 5 years before moving here. And we always had the dream of opening a Vietnamese restaurant, especially featuring northern Vietnamese food, so here we are.
How has it been to see a night like this? How happy does that make you?
I'm really happy. Yeah, people know and then love our food, the food that we love in Vietnam. So we want to bring all the food we love in Vietnam to share with everyone.
From a common comfort food that's found throughout Vietnam, like this garlic sautéed morning glory, or rau muong, to ones that are specific to regions, like this pho from the northern city of Cao Bang, a noodle soup with roast duck leg, smoked pork, and crispy pork belly.
All right, order up.
While Carlo is usually in the kitchen, Gwen is often behind the bar making drinks that include imported teas from small farms in Vietnam. For diners who like to know the story behind what they're eating, the Paper Bridge menu has detailed descriptions. 1 year into having this restaurant, the couple tells me they're just getting started.
So many dishes we want to share.
This is just the start.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This is our like phase 1 here.
Something else, they make their own noodles there on site. 2 machines produce 2 different kinds of noodles. One for the bun, known as vermicelli. The other creates the wider noodles for pho, which they don't just serve in soup like most Americans might be used to. That pho noodle includes being fried, or they even roll it as bite-sized wraps. Still to come, the science behind a local ice cream company that creates some fun flavors. Plus, the time a famous band helped save an Oregon creamery. How the Grateful Dead brought a business back to life. Here at Memoir Cafe, you'll find Vietnamese-inspired brunch dishes and drinks. The trio behind the restaurant see themselves as a chosen family. Each one has already made a name for themselves right here in Portland's culinary scene over the years. Lisa Nguyen of Heyday Donuts, Kim Dam of Portland Cafe, and Richard Le of Mata. Okay, and then when you sense a business owner really enjoys what they're making, sometimes you can really taste that joy in their food. In 2009, 50 Licks started scooping ice cream at Portland's Mississippi Street Fair. 4 years later, the company's first shop opened on Southeast Clinton Street. Owner Chad Drazen loves merging science and creativity to come up with these cool flavors.
I'm happiest where art and science intersect with each other. That's what I love.
That love for clever creations shows in Chad Drazen's business, 50 Licks Ice Cream. He's giving us a rare look at how the sweet treats are made.
So these are our 2 batch freezers. So all of the ice cream ingredients, once they've been pasteurized next door, go into this machine.
During our tour, we watch as production manager Michael Owen works on a batch of the flavor Brownie versus Blondie. The diced treats will go into the ice cream machines. Chad explains how this process is also about getting the texture just right.
And you can see how it sticks to the sides and then the blades come and scrape it off. And as this is happening, it's also whipping air in, and the air makes the ice cream fluffy. Too much air and you got a cheap ice cream that's mostly air, but just the right amount makes it a nice, fun, fluffy texture.
Understanding the science behind this is key, and in one instance, that mindset helped Chad come up with a new flavor.
About 10 years ago, I had a dream that I made toasted milk ice cream. And I woke up from the dream and I remembered what it tasted like in the dream. But how the heck am I gonna toast milk? I don't know. Toasting is a chemical reaction that happens at about 350. So water and milk boil at 212. So the only way to make it work is to remove all the water from the milk. So we take powdered milk, we roast it in the oven, and then we blend that in with the milk, sugar, egg, and cream. And the final product, which we've had on the menu pretty much all the time for the last 10 years, tastes exactly like it did in the dream.
Creating ice cream in Portland means he's living the dream in a city that never ceases to inspire him.
People have discernment here. And I don't think that this business would have been successful in that way if we did it somewhere else. But also, I get inspired by all the other people around town that are making wonderful things.
Chad tells me he thinks the person who has the most fun job in his company is the assistant production manager, Rowena Boudon. That's because she's also the head of research and development, and she developed all the flavors in the past few years, including the one we saw being made, Brownie versus Blondie. From ice cream to a creamery that's survived some hard times. And the famous band, the Grateful Dead, stepped up to help save them. By the 1970s, the couple behind the Eugene-based Springfield Creamery started to struggle. A charity concert turned things around in a big way.
Looking at all the products that are made at the Springfield Creamery these days, it may be hard to believe the Eugene-based business ever saw tough times. But more than 50 years ago, that did happen to Sue and Chuck Kesey, who had 2 young children at the time.
I was nearly 11 years old then, and it was 1972, and my parents had come upon hard times.
Cheryl Kesey Thompson remembers that very well.
They had taxes that were due, and my dad decided to reach out to the Grateful Dead, and he had a connection to the Grateful Dead through his brother, King Kesey, who was a writer. And so my dad went down and asked him, hey, will you do a benefit for the creamery? And they said yes.
Less than a month from making the commitment, the famous band performed at the benefit concert just west of Eugene.
I think it was 27 days between when they said yes and when 20,000 people came to a field in Veneta. So it was when we look back on it, it's like when my brother and I look back on it as adults now, we're like, I can't believe that you guys went from yogurt makers to concert promoters in 27 days.
A simple idea with a big impact that the Kesey family is forever grateful for.
The Grateful Dead were so very, very generous, and I think in the end, there was like $15,000 made, or they donated $15,000 to us that got us over the hump, and that's all we needed. And that's really a fork in the road for our company.
Something else about the Springfield Creamery. In the late 60s, a cultured dairy product started to emerge in America. Yogurt. Now back then it came in glass jars, and customers would call the bookkeeper to order more. And since their bookkeeper, Nancy Hammering, would be the one to pick up those calls, people kept calling and asking for more of Nancy's yogurt. And so that's the name of it. Next time you're at the grocery store, you might notice how it is a popular product that you still see in stores today, Nancy's yogurt.
Still to come, a chef offers innovative dishes while also staying true to classics. The welcoming space where a karaoke tune might break out every once in a while. Plus, a sweet collaboration that highlights how the local culinary industry is full of creative people who are often open to new and tasty partnerships.
Welcome back. We're here at Memoir Cafe in Northeast Portland, and this is one of the three owners here, Richard Lay. So tell me a little bit about what led you and your friends Lisa and Kim to open up a place, and you guys already have existing businesses. Why do another?
We all have brands and are established in our own way, so why not we just open a place together? And so we started off with like pop-ups and all that kind of stuff, just kind of get a feeling of how it was gonna go. And just off of the first pop-up that we had, it was such a huge response that we're like, oh, it's undeniable that we should be doing this. I mean, a big part of what we do here is kind of based off of our memories, and we're paying homage to our lost parents. So both Kim and Lisa lost their father at a young age, and I lost my mom at a young age. And so we have these like memories of like going to McDonald's and having McDonald's big breakfast or like breakfast sandwiches and all that kind of stuff. So the idea behind all the food is kind of built around this homage to our lost parents, and the food is really reflective of that. So like we have a breakfast sandwich that when I was a kid, I would get the sausage egg McMuffin. I would get that sandwich and then put the hash brown inside of it. So we do a version of that here. I do my mom's omelet that she used to make as a kid. It's like a shrimp omelet. And then we also have like memories of just going to like Cinnabon. So Lisa makes a really cool black sesame cinnamon roll here. So it's just like little things here and there that we just tie to the memory of our parents, and we just want the folks that come in to really share that with us.
Whenever someone is having fun, they're creating joy with their food, their drink, whatever, I feel like I can taste it. Do you feel that too, and do you hope that people really taste that and can sense the joy and love you put into what you're making?
For sure. I think like the biggest part that we do here is trying to connect with our audience. And so the nice thing about doing all of that is that we have obviously like little traits that we put into the food or into the coffee and stuff that makes it feel like people can experience it with us. But it's also just like we just put a lot of love into it. We really care about what we do here, and so it's nice to be able to like have already like a following that already understands that, and to exemplify that more with this brand.
Collaborations are really common here in Portland's culinary scene. It's truly a treat though when you see how two creative minds came together to make a special chocolate bar.
One of the regulars at Ranger Chocolate in Northeast Portland is also one of the company's newest collaborators, Gregory Gourdet.
I live in the neighborhood, and I've been coming here for quite a bit. I walked in one day and I saw the Nord chocolate bar, which they have, which features Haitian cacao. And it was like one of the few times I've seen chocolate, especially Haitian chocolate, wrapped artisanally so beautifully. So I was automatically intrigued. Of course, I had to buy it and taste it, and it was delicious. I had to share it with my parents and my family. I took it on the road and served it at events, and our kind of relationship kind of started from there.
Gregory is chef and founder of Sous-Sol Bar, as well as KONI, the James Beard Awards Best New Restaurant of 2023. Through both businesses, he proudly shares his Haitian roots through his cuisine. And together with George Damaro, head chocolate maker and founder of Ranger Chocolate, who is of Puerto Rican descent, the duo is merging their personal influences into a tasty new creation.
So with the Caribbean Chocolate Bar, there's a very close sense of family and friends and community that goes into that bar. And then with both of us having a connection to the Caribbean with our families, it just grew from there in terms of memories of childhood and ingredients. And then together we just kept bouncing ideas back and forth until we got to where we are today.
So from ideas, then there's also the flavors and the ingredients. Talk about that collaboration effort and working together, essentially, I guess, in the kitchen, right, with those flavors.
So, I mean, for me, what I love most about the bar, I think, is just how balanced it is and just how creamy it is, and how it's like a very kind of everyday bar in a way. It's not a special occasion bar. I think for me, I wanted to make sure that whoever ate it would eat the whole thing, you know? So it's like a beautiful balance of there's a little fruit and acid from the mango, there's a little bit of heat from the ginger, a little bit of heat from the habanero, of course Jacobson sea salt, and then vanilla, and then just coconut milk, which makes it all very creamy and very delicious and very, very balanced. I think the packaging is so beautiful.
It is.
Kind of like expresses the richness of the Caribbean and just how lush it is and where these ingredients might grow.
I have to admit, spice scares me, and I know the habanero,
You're gonna do great.
I know, and you're like, but you wouldn't.
You're gonna do great.
George graciously gave us a taste of the Caribbean chocolate from a drum.
You should let it melt in your mouth.
And this, he tells me, is only missing the salt at this point. And these drums never stop spinning, George explains, unless one of them needs some maintenance.
This seems like mad science. Yes. Was it kind of hard for you, or was it honestly like, no, this is what we do all the time?
It's what George does all the time. Yeah, so it's been fun learning about the chocolate making process. I think we went back and forth about 7 times before the final recipe. The heat was an issue, the sweetness was an issue, all things we figured out. So we have a final result that we're very, very happy with.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that gets me excited every day is creating something that's unique. And working with Gregory has been really exciting because we were able to bounce a lot of ideas off each other and get to a place that is a pretty unique chocolate experience in terms of how it tastes and how it delivers this, the flavor changes to the end.
Sales from this bar, which is dairy and gluten-free, support ethical cacao farming in Haiti. And George tells me it is considered a super premium bar. It's $24 for a 2.25 ounce bar and $14 for one that's 1.25 ounce. Portland's Korean food scene is getting some attention in a new cookbook called Korea World. The book is a follow-up from Bay Area chef Dookie Hong and journalist Matt Rodbard's Koreatown. Well, Chef Peter Cho, who has 2 restaurants, Homage and Jeju, is one of the local familiar faces mentioned in the pages. He welcomed us to Jeju ahead of a launch party he hosted.
We're pumped. The book is a follow-up to their first book, which was a huge hit, and so we're excited to host them. They were actually here a few months ago for the recipe itself and the photo shoot at Homage, but this is a more sort of welcoming space for a big party.
Peter Cho tells me his restaurant, Jeju, is meant to be a welcoming place, both in terms of the vibrant space and the menu.
We are always trying to kind of push the boundaries as well, but also keep it very approachable and familiar. So really it's more of a storytelling of my experience with Korean food. It was a rediscovery for me.
That rediscovery of Korean cuisine is something Peter is proudly sharing in his home state.
I grew up in Eugene, Springfield actually, and went to U of O, and so Oregonian sort of raised. But yeah, I was not into cooking at all before I moved to New York. Coming back, really it's just to be home and close to family. Korean barbecue is most known for the grills and the table and sort of cooking at the table, and so we wanted to highlight the wood-fired aspects, but also we have focused on whole animal sourcing. So we get every 10 to 14 days we'll get a half a cow, a whole pig, sometimes there's lamb that we bring in, but really just using nose to tail cookery, right? And so we're using every part of the animal.
Watching Chef Ben Klein put the dishes together is part of the experience. And you'll find twists on traditional drinks with bar manager Matt Huang, like the Tiger Balm, a nod to the painkiller. This is a place where fine dining meets not having to take yourself too seriously.
You know, something you don't see at a lot of restaurants is this. Yeah, they have their own karaoke room. It's not always a karaoke room, but for this event, they will have this up with, of course, the microphones and tambourines.
So karaoke has been a fun sort of addition to our arsenal, I suppose.
As we wrap up, we do want to extend our big thanks to Kim, Lisa, Richard, and their entire team here at Memoir Cafe for giving us their time and their space. And from all of us here at KONI, thank you for tuning into this special that showcased several of our Northwest Grown stories. And to learn much more about these stories and catch other Northwest Grown reports, head over to KONI.com. Take care.